doing great. Tell us a little bit about yourself, John. How did you get into this game of basketball?
Oh man, it was just by happenstance, you know. It was just one of those things that exist outside. Back then being outside was everything. So, I seen a lot of the older guys out at the basketball court playing and everything. So, for a young tyke like me, I was looking and I seen it, but I couldn't go out there because it was just big kids there and everything. So, we tried to find a way to emulate and do some of the things that they were doing, or even on TV. And so we had some monkey bars in the back of our building 21 in Father Panic Village. And so we took the middle basket on the monkey bar, or the middle slot, and made that a basket. So that's where we began to start to play and start to, display some of the things that we see in some of the other guys doing.
So you basically took it back to creating your own basketball court out there and out there on the crates and stuff, as we used to do in the city, on the crates out there shooting the ball in the hoop and everything.
Absolutely. We're just imitating what was being done on the basketball court. Being young, like I say, couldn't get time out there. But every now and then, you're able to get out there, you shoot around a few times, you get a couple kids start coming out, and then we take our ball, we go back to the monkey bars and stuff. But eventually, it just kind of evolved on its own because we started staying out there more on the basketball court. And so some of the younger guys that would come and play, we started playing with them. And before you know it, we was just a part of the scene. And as you got better, then, guys want you to stay. So, I remember, me and some of the friends from around my court, which was 25 and 21, we would go out there and, be playing with some of the younger guys from other places. And then the older guys started coming. And so, I began to get a little better. So when the older guys would come, someone would ask if I wanted to play. And then my guys, they were like, well, you go ahead and play. And they went on back around the our buildings. But so eventually it just evolved that way, just because, I displayed a little bit of, ability to maybe, do a little something. And, some of the guys wanted me to play with them, and then that just began to really evolve.
Now, what was your natural position?
Just on the court. Just put me on the court, let me play. I saw, that was really all it was. It was just more, and I was never a guy that, felt I had to, be a captain and choose the team. I couldn't say, hey, you can't play or you can't play. I was like, hey, look, man, you want to play? I'll play with anyone.
Yeah.
So I allowed myself to be chosen, and I would never, not pick someone because I thought someone was better than someone else.
Okay. So after the streets of Father Panic out in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yes.
Where did that take you from there?
Well, it was interesting enough that you got basketball that's on the court, and then you have life that's happening. So real life was more of changing and evolving, and so we went from living in Father Panic Village to living on the east end of town. So now I had to go against the people that I came up with and everything. So it was kind of a challenge, but it had to be done. But on the East End, what I found is that because I was evolving and I was growing, and I lived like right up the street from the Newfield ballpark. I was like, man, I wouldn't even let the daylight come up. And I was already on my way up there, and we would be there all day long. And so, that evolution and then that time that was spent, really kind of created something. And, it was just a desire to want to play. And it had nothing to do with anything else, because, I didn't have it in my head like that. But out of that came, a guy that was beginning to understand the game, because one of the things I always related basketball to is like checkers or chess. You know, because it was all about strategy, it was all about moves. You know, you had to know, you had to know your thing. You know, so and then the key and reward of it all is winning.
Yes, yes.
Because and back in the day, if you ain't winning,
That's right.
you ain't playing.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so it was about winning. So
That's
that
right.
was the marquee, and that's what we chased. And so I became pretty good at it because I understood. I always knew what the score was. I knew when we had to score. And, so you're not realizing that is really creating like a player, somebody that plays the game.
Yes.
But different than just somebody that just plays it.
Yes. Yes.
I'm playing it. So but the other people didn't know I was playing it like that.
Yeah.
Because I was it wasn't something that somebody sat down and said, hey, here's the manual.
Yes.
But there were some sequences you had to follow in order to really kind of excel at it, because it was just like anything. Like I said, summertime I would go to camp and we played checkers, and you making moves and you playing checkers, you're like, I'm playing to win. I'm playing just to be playing.
That's right. That's right.
And so those are the type of things I think that really kind of set the stage for me.
So what high school did you play for here in Connecticut?
I played at Warren Harding High School, and I played with West Matthews, played with a couple other people that were at Aldo Samuels, great players, that names I've heard, now I'm at the court and I'm hearing these names. I'm not necessarily connected with those, because Wes ran a whole different way than I did. I went a whole different way than he. But when we came together, because me and Wes was at school together, I was a freshman, he was a junior. And my freshman year, I played freshman JV and varsity. So I played 3 games. By the time I got to the varsity game, man, I done already got it in.
Yeah.
So, in practice, I had a chance to see and because I was able to develop a little reputation for myself as a freshman. I'm looking and, so I'm challenging. So again, the way I understood the game, I'm not understanding it like everybody else.
Yeah.
So I see him and I'm trying to compete against him because, he's that guy. He's the winner. I gotta win.
Yeah.
So we kind of in practice, we kind of always bumped heads and everything, but it's all in good fun and competition. And
Would you say that situation going against West, somebody that was good and considered a winner, and you being as competitive as you were and wanting to win, do you see that as a positive tool that elevated your game?
That was fuel. That was all that you needed, in the game of basketball. You can have in your head what you think you could do, but once you run against somebody that, is not allowing you to do it, or he's doing something else to you, it changes everything, And so, because of that, I was pursuing it. I was going hard. And then when you start seeing the stuff that was happening to them, they were going to college. Actually, we had a sporting good store here, Arctic Sports Shop.
Yes.
And I remember Aldo Samuel was the guy. He was the guy. And Arctic Sports Shop was providing him with stuff, gear, sneakers. He was the man.
Yeah.
So it happened to Wes, and it happened to Mike McKay, because Mike was a year before me, and so he was that Arctic Sports Shop guy. So I was.
All right, John. So after high school, where did your career take you then?
Well, after high school, like I said, before high school was over, all the other guys had went on to college and everything. It was just interesting while Mike McKay was being courted by UConn and everything. And, I was having a good year. I thought maybe, I'd end up going to UConn. But UConn didn't, pursue me.
And just so happened that, you know, a gentleman named Kevin Mackey from Boston College, he happened to come to see Mike McKay the year before. Came back, let me know that they was interested. I went up there to visit, and I liked what I saw. I liked the fact that it wasn't real close, but it wasn't far away either.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just right for me. You know, I ain't had to worry about people just popping up, but at the same time, it was just enough, and it was an opportunity. You know, because when I went there, you had a few guys there. Ernie Cobb was there, and you know, so there was a senior point guard that was there my first year there. So I knew that my time would flow in right behind him. You know,
Yeah.
so again, like I said, I'm a strategist, so I think about, you know, what need to happen.
Yeah.
That's going to be the best situation for me.
Yeah.
But so he was after he graduated, after he left. But my first year, you know, I played with him. I came off the bench. They had me playing forward. You know, because the guard position, they didn't want to give me because the senior guard had that time, and I think they knew if I had gotten some of that time, I would have taken it. But so the following year, you know, even though I came off the bench my freshman year, my sophomore year, player of the year. So you know, you have to wonder, like, how does that happen? How do you go from not playing a lot, you know, to being the player of the year? Like, yo, you had the player of the year on your bench?
But they didn't know what they had on the bench.
They knew what they had, but it was just the coach's way of dealing with players and managing, you know, who he's going to play, who's the senior, who, you know, because that was the mentality back then.
Yeah. Doing your thing, yes, I saw some of the footage, you know, and some of the talk coming down here, which was great. And on your way from Cleveland, where did you stop next?
Well, it's interesting you say Cleveland, because I was having a conversation with a gentleman that called me maybe a couple of days ago, Campy Russell, gave me my number, and he was talking about Cleveland. And I was like, man, I ain't never played for Cleveland. I played for Cleveland. I played for the city Cleveland. It had the Cavaliers' name on it, but I never played in Cleveland.
Wow.
We played out in Ridgefield, which was closer to Akron, where I lived. Of course, is where LeBron grew up and everything, but I mean, that's where I was. I never played in Cleveland, so I thought it was just interesting that, you know, now they would play in Cleveland, and you could feel that vibe, you know, that city vibe. You know? So it was just interesting that, you know, I loved playing out in Ridgefield, but you know, I just know that city vibe in Cleveland was probably mind blowing. You know?
Wow, yes, absolutely.
But like I said, I got traded to New Jersey, me and Keith Lee. So I get to New Jersey, and I'm in the locker room. You know, Bill Dawkins there, Albert King is there. You know, Albert King. You know, Albert King. That's like a super name. Albert was one of only a few players to score 100 points in the game. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So Buck Williams there, G-Man is there, Jaminsky. I played against Mike in high school. We had a guy, Phil Murphy, that could jump, so Phil blocked his shot, and that was like the crazy thing back then. And so, you know, Kevin McKenna, you know, all these guys, you know, and, you know, came out strong, played good early, and then my second year I got sick. I don't know, it was one of those things. You could see the play happen, but you couldn't get there.
Yeah.
You know? And so, you know, my second year there was not a good year. Actually, I was starting when I got there, but by the end of my second year, Lester Connors was starting. And I was coming off the bench. When I got there, Kerr Washington was there, you know. A lot of heads, you know, Orlando Woolbridge, you know. I think back, you know, I just think of the names and, you know, the way that they were as players, and, you know. And then, so after my second year, that was not well. the summertime, I had went to, came back to Connecticut. Had a friend of mine that lived in Hartford, and so she and I we was hanging out. And I had another friend that was in a good friend of mine that was my coach's good friend, my high school coach, best friend. And he was in Kentucky, Rhode Island. So I would go see him during the day, train, work out with him. So he was just getting ready and everything. It just so happened that, we called because, we found out that the Celtics didn't have enough point guards. So I had my agent call him and see, hey, ask him if I can come and just practice and work out with them. So they agreed. They was like, okay, yeah, come on, they need some other point guards and stuff. So I went there one day, because I've been training all summer. Did my thing. Boom, they stopped me after that. They was like, yo, you gotta go home. So they sent me home, and they negotiated and worked out a deal for me to be on the Celtics that following year. That year. So, like I said, sometimes things come in the shape of a blessing. And, it was just a great moment then going there, and of course playing with the likes of Bird, Kel, DJ, Parrish, Reggie Lewis, before he passed, God rest his soul. His wife Donna was from Bridgeport, so we had that connection with Reggie, so it was good to be back in Boston in that realm. And because when I got drafted to Cleveland, I really wanted to get drafted by Boston, but I got picked early.
Yes.
Boston was like 23rd pick or something like that. But it just was a way of going around to come back. And my years in Boston were, some of the best years. Every player should get a chance to play with, maybe one of the best group of players. Because it's a whole different feel.
Yes, it is.
It's a whole different feel when you're on a different track, when you don't get that. Although I played with some great players at Cleveland, and I played with the likes of World B. Free, Lonnie Shelton, Edgar Jones, Ron Brewer, just some great college name players.
Yes.
But collectively, we were not that like the one in Boston. And in Boston, being able to play with them, even though they were on the decline, they weren't and we had some good moments. And like I said, I truly, feel lucky to have been able to do that.
Yes. After a long 13-year career in the NBA, when you look at the NBA today versus when you played, what do you say about the point guards in the NBA today versus when you was a guard in the NBA?
Well, I personally think that, point guard was like a dual thing. You had to have the ability to run the show, but you also had to have the ability to go to the hole back then. Now, you have to have the ability to run the show, but you have the ability to knock down the three.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
Okay.
So I'm looking at, I'm seeing, say, wow, guys have that ability to but one thing that goes missing is that late game, the guy that can get down the hole and make it happen. Because again, it's all about getting to the basket and late game.
That's right.
So I don't care if you shoot threes or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Getting to the hole is the key.
That's right. Now, listen, for true superstar readers, we want John Bagley, top 5 players of all time.
Top five of all time?
Of all time.
Woo! I can only see it from the perspective of the guys that I played with, because anything else would be just me just looking at the numbers and seeing what the numbers are. Because the numbers really tell the story. You know, you got putting up numbers.
Yeah.
You can't be denied.
Yeah.
What argument you can get into?
Yeah.
You can't fight that. But when I look at it from the standpoint of view of the guys I played against or played with, and that's what I'm going to go with. Top five. Now I got to look over the whole, the whole league. But
Start with Larry Bird.
Yeah, but you got Larry, you got Magic. Magic is doing this thing. I mean, you got when you go and you start really looking at this thing, man. I mean, people that you can't deny. Alex Emmons was a beast. Walter Davis was a beast. David Thompson was a beast. So you got players that's not really sitting at the top. But them guys, George Gervin was a beast. You know what I'm saying? So when you start really, analyzing and trying to figure out who did what, Don King was a beast. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's so hard, because as a player.
In your top five?
Yeah, it really is, man. Because the numbers are just incredible. You start looking at players, it's just incredible. It's just, you figure, there was somebody on every team that was just a beast.
Okay. All right, we accept that. Well, when you look at the way that a player like Kobe Bryant's retiring this year, what do you say about a career that someone like a Kobe Bryant had?
Nothing you can say, man. Kobe did his thing for a long time, so, that's the other side of things too, We had like a glass ceiling. These guys don't have a glass ceiling, man, 20 years.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, that there's a shorter period of time between retirement and retirement.
Yes,
Yeah, so if you could add 10 years, or minus 10 years to your weight, it's not a bad thing. But I think, Kobe is what he is, man. Kobe is, he did like everybody else. He was emulated, just like the rest of us. Mike was great. Doc was great before him. Elgin Baylor, West, and all of them, Jerry West. So there was always someone to emulate.
Yes.
And it happened all along. And Kobe is the product of imitation, but he's also the product of recreation. So everything that he did, he recreated what Mike did.
Yeah.
Just like Mike had recreated what Doc did.
Yeah.
So Kobe's in that line.
Okay, great. Well, before we leave here today, is there anybody that you want to shout out before we leave?
Shout out to, all young people, man. Young people, that's the key today. And I talked a lot about imitation, duplication, and recreation. And, those are things that kids can do, and you have access to more videos and more information, and they need to do that research and find out what people did, that's similar to what they want to do, and they can do it. They can imitate, duplicate, and recreate it. And it's a natural thing, and that's the way history is. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay. Well, John, what is next for John Bagley?
Well, I have a granddaughter that's going to be born next month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so I'm looking forward to that because, you know, my daughter, I was showing her and teaching her and coaching her, and she was doing very well before she broke a leg. I just love to see the finished product. I like to see if my daughter, my granddaughter would take up something like that,
Yeah.
be interested. You know, my son didn't do it. So it'd be nice to see a family member pursue something that I think, you know, we might have a line on, you know. So,
Yeah.
so if it happens, it does. If it doesn't, you know, I'm still out here coaching young women, young men, training. So, you know, that's what we do. I'm always going to give away what I got because I can't lose it.
Well, one of the things we can say is that your granddaughter does have an advantage. It's in her DNA. And so that's the advantage that she has because her grandfather was one of the best that ever did it. So we thank you for taking the time and giving us this opportunity to interview you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right.
My pleasure. All right.